It's direct.
No. Yeah. No. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Go live on Facebook now. 1.
All right, so good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for popping in to join a lot of the WSC9 family. We're talking about hair this morning because it's been a big conversation this week, natural hair. We were talking about the Crown Act earlier this week in Montgomery County, and then the story of 12-year-old Amari Allen, which has definitely just touched a lot of people. I mean, it was devastating, honestly, for me to cover that story. So we have brought a table of diverse employees into the studio today to just talk about hair and why it matters so much, especially enough for a bunch of little boys to tell a little girl that her hair is nappy and ugly, which should have never happened. So yeah, let's get the conversation started. We just had a very interesting conversation about protective styles and natural hair and different textures. And Salika, I know you were telling me how curly your hair is and the process that goes into that and helping us understand that.
Yeah, so currently I have a keratin treatment in, and this is post-keratin treatment, and I have to wash my hair when I go to the gym or after the gym because I don't want it to stink, right? So then I do it curly, and this is the result of curly. But we talked about this morning too, just in the professional environment. I was told as a young journalist that curly hair is not professional or professional looking, and it's always been my natural hair type. I was specifically told by an assistant news director over a decade ago that if you want to grow as a reporter or a journalist or a digital journalist, you need to have straight hair. And I know some of us had talked about that.
Can we name him? It's just awful.
I don't do bad blood, so I'm going to say no because in the end, curly wins.
Yeah, and I think that starts even when we're younger, because oftentimes when it's like the first day of school or in some important event, one of the first things we do when our mom's like, "Hey, it's time to get your hair done," you get it straightened, and that just instills in little girls that when there's something important or a big event or something that you have to look nice for, in order for you to look nice, you have to have your hair straight. Yeah. And that's something that starts when little girls or little boys when they're young. Super young. And I think that that's something that parents can definitely work on in terms of letting their kids know, like, yeah, we're going to Easter service, but you're going to have your hair the way that it is. You don't have to have it straight. Or yes, it's the first day of school. You look fine just the way you are. Yeah.
And I'm sure most of us can attest to this. Just growing up, I never saw black women with big curly hair, kinky curly hair on air. And I feel like we're in new times now where I think that just natural beauty is becoming more accepted. And I'm noticing more anchor women and reporters wearing their hair natural on camera. I was talking about my curl journey. But Sam, it would be interesting to get your perspective here because you've been in this business for a very long time.
And I was talking about this earlier. I'm 60, proud of it. And I don't understand, I grew up with people with afros. I grew up with people who were on the air with afros, and there was nothing said. And when I first started in the business, I worked with people with afros. And I don't know when this change started happening again. I don't know where it came from.
Bruce Johnson had an afro.
Yes.
Crazy.
Well, we talked about that this morning.
But where did this happen? When did this happen?
That it was always a thing because of systematic racism that lives in our everyday lives, from where you work to where you go to school with this little girl to, just shopping. And if you're a person of color, you're maybe looked at or asked if you need help or followed versus somebody who is not of color. And so it extends across the board. And I'm so glad you didn't have that experience. But when I think about it in totality, it hasn't been the case for most of us.
Well, that's what go ahead, Kathy.
Yeah, no, so this is where things got really interesting for me this morning. It was because, as an on-air talent in this industry, I also you had to have straight hair, a bob. And obviously I said, so I really want to understand why this was an issue of race. And then you guys brought in some really good points of experiences that you had that I had not. And that's where, beyond this industry, in the everyday life, the things that you guys have encountered, that was shocking to me.
Yeah, I think the part of it that really bothered me is, one, as a parent, and I know some of you are parents on this panel, I just felt like, I don't know what I'd do if my daughter came home and that happened to her, and I'd like to think that I wouldn't put myself in jail. But two, if I had raised being white, if I had raised one of those kids, and this is one of the, what do you call, elephant in the room. Like, these were 3 white kids. These were 3 white boys. They were 6th graders. They were classmates of her. And one, like, I won't let my son use the word nappy. I think that's it's like a racial slur for hair. And so I think that black hair. And so I think that in particular the fact that these kids thought that was okay, or that she bothered them enough that they were going to cut her hair. It's almost, it's not a sexual assault, but it seems like, and it seems like such a violation that it's almost to that level. And you guys could speak to it more, because as you could see, I don't have a lot of hair.
I was going to say that I was a little bit nervous to bring this up, but I think this is an appropriate time to do that. I was that little girl who went to school and they called my hair nappy. I was that little girl that went to school when I was in the cubby, when you put your coat in the cupboard, and people were yanking my hair because I didn't have like a nice curl pattern. I have 4C hair. And I remember—
Explain to what 4C hair means, because
Okay,
I don't think everybody understands that.
Okay, so with women of color, we have a grade of hair. It ranges from 1A to 4C. So 1A, 1B, 1C, and it's measured by the curl pattern of your hair. So 4C is the last one. Meaning your curl pattern isn't a curl, it's like a zigzaggy kind of, it's a Z type of look. So I have 4C hair. And what that means is, you know, my edges, which is the front part of my hair, doesn't have like that cute swoop or the sleek look.
It's not relaxed.
It's not relaxed.
Straight.
It's very coarse type of hair.
Coily.
Very coily.
Curly.
Yeah, exactly. So when I had braids or anything, you can still see it within the hair, or when I had my natural hair, you can still see it. So when I was growing up, I was bullied because my hair was very, in the words, nappy. I remember going home one day and telling my mom, like, can you use a hot comb? And my mom didn't know how to use a hot comb, and she burned my my ears, with the grease, and then her and my aunt sat down and they used a chemical relaxer in my hair, and I had to sit with a chemical relaxer in my hair for 5 to 10 minutes, and it burns your scalp.
Oh, that was way too long.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And it burns your scalp, but I got that the straight hair that I wanted, but I had to keep getting it every 2 weeks. So it's just like, you know, I don't want to blame my mom for, you know, stepping in and putting chemicals in my hair, but she felt sorry for me because of the bullying that I was experiencing. But I do want to say that with the generation that we're going in right now, I love how it's being portrayed as something beautiful.
Yes.
But I do want to say that there were some dark times for women of color in regards to coarse hair.
So when that happened to you in school, I'm sorry.
No,
I'm wondering, like, because it happened with this little girl in a school, whose responsibility do you think at that time, did you have a teacher stand up for you? Did you have another classmate stand up for you? What did that look like for you then, and what do you think should have happened or should happen?
I would say that it should have been the responsibility of my teacher, but just like Amari, like I was too nervous to stand up for myself and say that they were pulling my hair. It's a little bit, to me at that time, I would say it was a little bit embarrassing. I mean, what 5-year-old was embarrassed? I mean, come on. But it was a little bit embarrassing to bring that up. Oh my gosh, they're pulling my hair. My hair is a little bit, you know, nappy or coarse or something like that. I didn't want to bring that up. But I do wish that I did stand up for myself, so that maybe I could have been that driving force for kids to come in the future. Maybe the movement would have started a little bit earlier because I stood up for myself or something like that. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's all coming full circle today.
So at what age was your first relaxer?
5.
Mine was 5.
I was
Yeah.
5 too. But my
Chemicals on your
experience
head
is,
at
Yeah, it's
5.
like a
but my
kitty perm.
experience is
They
different.
call it kitty
The
cat.
perm,
Yeah.
or when I had to get a kitty perm, my mother told me it was because my hair wouldn't stay down, and when she put barrettes and balls on my hair would just shrivel back up, which is just what it does today. So at that point, you know, at 5 years old, you're already teaching, like you said, children what you're supposed to look like, what's the standard, and what a lot of people say is the Eurocentric standard, because at the end of the day, my hair grows out of my head 4A, 4B, curly, coily, and that's just how it should be, period. So now, being older, I've been natural for about 10, 12 years or something like that. I really embrace it because I couldn't then. And now, you know, I started going natural before it was really a thing. But I it's just like, this is why we can't, it's like we always have to constantly teach people and tell people why it's wrong. But to be very honest with you guys, it is very exhausting.
What's exhausting?
To teach people and tell people. And also, no shade, Kathy, no shade at all. But we also have to deal with people who want to touch our hair. And a lot of people feel like we're not a petting zoo.
No.
Like we don't like to be. That's honest, because hair is hair. You can admire it from afar, but a lot of times it's typically only towards a black person where it's like, oh, can I touch it? And it's like, no, please no.
Right.
Like, and a lot of people don't want to say, please no, don't touch it. Or you'll have people feeling entitled to, oh, let me just touch your big hair. And it's like, no, you don't do that. Would you do that to a white person? Would you do that to anybody else? Just, you can admire it. You can say your hair is nice, like you tell me all the time, but you don't go in and try to.
I love it.
Yeah.
And my question is, why don't you wear it that way more often? Is it just because you want to change up your style?
No.
Or because it's beautiful.
Because it's hot outside. And the minute I had to do my twist out, and by the time I get to work, it's Pam Grier 1970s.
Wait, it's what?
Humidity is not our friend.
Jackie Brown.
I just prefer, I love 1970s, but that's just not my look. I am not that girl. I want my twist out. I sit and I take my time for my twist out. And when I come to work, I expect my twist out to flourish and not be a fro.
So we can see more of it in the fall then?
Probably so.
Let me just say, if you're just joining us on Facebook, we've been having a conversation that Makia Turner, our own Makia Turner, in the middle here, a nice young woman, great reporter. She got a story about a 12-year-old girl at Emmanuel Christian School, Springfield, Virginia. You know, I don't want to debrief you totally on the story, but you got this story because you knew the aunt.
Yes.
A little bit.
I knew the family, and I was just shocked when I woke up Wednesday to a text message and a direct message and a phone call where she had just opened up to her family that 2 days prior, she was on the school playground. She was approached by 3 boys. They were white boys. She's a black girl. And she told me that she was basically trapped on the playground and pinned to a sliding board. She described it to me as they had her on her stomach. One of the boys covered her mouth. The other boy pulled her hands behind her back. And the third boy pulled out scissors and cut some of her locks off. She said they ran off laughing. This is after they called her just terrible names. And then she kept quiet about it because she told me that she was afraid. So grandma noticed 2 days later that her locks were just uneven. They weren't as long as they were. She started asking questions. Poor Amari just, at first, she lied and said that she did it herself. And grandma said, no, you didn't. And she broke down and she told them the truth. And then that's when we were on it first thing yesterday morning. And just the amount of support that she's gotten from this has just been amazing, but just something that a 12-year-old girl should never have to go through.
Well, not that, but like, I always think that empathy and compassion is important in these kind of stories, and I'd like to think I could do that story. But as an African American woman who's dealt with black hair issues before, like, is it even more personal to you? Is it almost hard to keep your journalistic hat on when something emotional like that is going on?
So what I do remind people is that even though we're in front of the camera, behind the camera, we're human at the end of the day. And the whole time I sat there and just watched her just so overwhelmed, watched grandma, just tears pouring from her eyes. I mean, it killed me inside. It hurt me because when I look at Amari, I don't just see Amari. I see all the other young minority girls out there who may be teased because they choose to wear their hair a certain way or because their hair texture is different from everyone else around them. And so for me, when I look at her, I think of everyone else that she represents, and that does hurt.
I think we had that conversation yesterday that people were calling, offering makeovers. So
Yes.
I think every bad has its good, and not that this justifies it, but it shows me even on our Facebook comments and social media
Instagram's, like, blowing
that
up.
people are in support of her, offering her, we can give you a makeover,
days,
spa
yeah.
days, and I think like if we focus on the good of the situation, this is a point where we can learn, where we can educate people, and where we can have these kinds of discussions, because we started this discussion in the morning meeting, not anticipating this Facebook Live, and now we're having it with all of you who are watching us, and I hope there's a lot of you, because I'm digital and that's my thing. But I want to just say, you know, Makia like took a real personal take on this, and we were talking about it yesterday, and I just said, I am incensed as a parent. Incensed. And she goes, I'm not even a parent and I'm incensed. And so like this should incense everybody, because it's a child. Like this really is our future, as cliche as it sounds. And when you continue this type of behavior at that level, what are we saying when we don't take accountability and jump in and try to help or correct the issue?
And I also think that what's most disturbing about someone experiencing this at that level is that we're talking about 12-year-olds, 6th graders. So that behavior, you're not born to hate. You're not born to be cruel and to learn these horrible names and to call people them. You've heard it somewhere, you've seen it somewhere. It can be in the household, it can be online.
It's been normalized
So
somewhere.
it's exactly, and so it is the responsibility of the parents or whoever else is a big influence in that child's life to, you know, let them know that these things are wrong and to not talk crazy in front of them.
You were talking about the education aspect of it, and we were talking about this without cameras and all this going on. You shared something that a lot of people did not know in the room about the style you're wearing right
that
now.
was
Which a lot of
game
people,
changer for me.
I have girlfriends who've told me about it, you know, so, and they have the jewels here. So tell everybody, because that's education. People need to know.
So of course these braids, it is a protective style, but
What does that mean?
Basically, it's a hairstyle that you have on your hair that protects your hair from
Protect your real hair.
It protects your real hair from heat damage, weather damage, or anything like that. So you're putting fake hair on your natural hair to protect it from basically daily use. Daily, you know, things like that. So this is a protective style. I'm protecting my natural. I'm natural now, by the way. So with this hairstyle, my family, we're West African. So this specific protective hairstyle is from my tribe. So it originated from the Fulani, and my tribe were Mandingo. So we have this hairstyle. And when a Mandingo woman is married, she gets this hairstyle, and then the middle part right here is where they put the jewelry down, and then they put a scarf over her hair. And she bears this hairstyle for 2 weeks. In front of her husband. So this is me wearing my crown on my head. So yes, it may be.
That's wonderful. It actually reminds me, like in my culture, and I'm Afghani and Pakistani, like tribally, what we do, like the bridal shower, all of the girls and the women that surround the girl will braid her hair in box braids. And as the night goes on, we'll each remove a braid, and it's kind of like a rite of passage. So that's also a cultural thing. So isn't it? Yeah.
And that's great that you say that. I like the fact that you say in your culture it's like a rite of passage, because a lot of just American, me, myself, a black woman, it's like, I don't know if I would want to go on a job interview with braids, because I'm a little nervous about the fact of, will they hire me? Will they see this as too ghetto, as too urban? I've had my mother, like I said earlier, tell me my natural hair needs to be pulled back and put in a bun when I was going to a job interview at a bank. And it's like, I was about to go against her, but I was a little nervous, so I just put it back. At this point now, it's just like, you want to take me as I am, or you don't want me at all, period. So that's where I am.
Just like that as well, going on job interviews, especially just graduating from school, trying to figure out, okay, what does professionalism mean for me? And there's been many times where I've had braids and I've like gotten them done a week before, but got a call for an interview and took them out. And for those who know, like getting braids, first of all, hours.
You said 9 hours for your hair?
This was 7 hours.
And it's pain. The first few nights, it hurts so bad.
So like getting braids done and then getting a call for an interview, then having to take them out after just spending 7 hours getting them done. It was
And
kind
this
of like,
too. It's not
cheap.
cheap.
And it's not cheap either. And the time. And so it was like trying to figure out, okay, what is the standard of beauty for me?
Right.
And also, what is the standard of professionalism? And there's been like a lot of memes made on Twitter of like going into your job interview with a particular hairstyle, and then 2 weeks after, like you come with the
real
way,
deal.
the way you really want to wear your hair.
After you get hired, you break it
Yeah,
out.
after you get hired,
That's
you're
what
like,
you did,
okay.
right? You just kept
That's what I
the
did.
shine.
And I do want to add too that I feel like there's a common misconception. I feel like with black women who choose to wear wigs and weaves that we're bald head under,
Exactly.
or we don't have edges, or we don't have hair. Y'all don't know. Our hair is flourishing under
under
these,
there.
up under the wigs, the weaves, the clip-ins, and all because of what you just explained. We don't put a lot of heat in our hair. I know when I'm out in the field, especially in the wintertime, pea coats. I have all these different color pea coats, and I remember like before I started using protective styles, my hair would break off so bad in the wintertime. So spring would roll around and I would have to get it cut all over again. So I would never retain length because of just the weather conditions. So I found protective styles to be extremely helpful for me, and I also chose to go natural almost 3 years ago. Why haven't I worn it yet on air? Well, so as we know, it's a process. I'm still learning it. I don't know how to do my natural hair just yet.
Except
And
the
how
style
important
you
is
had on
that?
Facebook with all, you told me that was curly.
Yes, yeah.
It was beautiful. You do know how to do it. So why isn't that on the air?
Hours, and my best friend came over. She's a curly head, and she actually went through had to take each section and literally take each strand and run product and gel down each strand, and then she had to like squish it up, and it took a while. Like we didn't get out the house for hours. I don't always have time to do that being here at 3 o'clock in the morning.
It's so much work.
It is a lot of work.
All of a sudden, I don't have the hair envy that I used to.
It takes time. We have the hairless envy. I mean, how many women can have the benefit of just going out with just shaving their head?
But
I
that's
mean,
something, that's why I said I would love it if every woman in this building came in
natural.
straight out of the shower, natural, no makeup, no hair. This is because you get to do it.
Yeah.
You get to
I
do
guess
it every
that's
day.
a question for our Facebook audience. Would you do that? Would you go to work, make a pact with the other women at your job, and go there with your natural hair and with your natural face? So no makeup. Would you do it?
Yes.
Tell us in
Love
your
it.
in the comments.
You mentioned cultural earlier, and I think it's important. You know, as a white male in this country, I don't know if everybody would agree with me, but I think there is, when they say white privilege, one of the things that is definitely a white privilege is if some crazy crime happens in America and it's done by a white person, at no point am I calling my friend who happens to be white up going, damn, oh, another one of us, oh, another. But I talked to my friend Sean Powell, a good friend of my sports writer who happens to be black. He's like, the moment, like the Baltimore sniper was black, I was like, oh no, I didn't want it to be a brother. didn't want, and it's sort of like, we, as white men, we need to take ownership of the fact that this was 3 white kids and they had white parents. And we had I don't know who's watching on Facebook today, but I hope there are some white people, because this, like when people say on Facebook, what's wrong with you white people? It's like, we have to take ownership of that. I don't care if you're the most well-intentioned white person in America that is about everything that every cause is. You have to talk to people around you that have these kind of beliefs, because I can't believe that 6th graders grew up and didn't know that this was wrong.
Well, I think that when they brought the scissors, that to me showed intention.
Yes.
So they
Yes.
there knowing what
They
they
had a
were going to
plan.
do.
Yeah,
They had
that's
a
what the
plan.
family said,
So it's quote unquote,
premeditated,
premeditated.
Why?
But I think.
why? Who taught them that? Like,
But
how
that's,
did they
you know
come to
what you
that
just
conclusion?
said, like the white privilege exists. I just watched a really good documentary with Chelsea Handler on Netflix, and she goes out as a white woman and talks about it in a very candid and awesome conversation. But it's like what you talked about, Sheree, like why is the ownership on women of color to make you feel more comfortable?
And to educate.
Right.
Yeah.
And I will say too, I've tried to call this school. I've called the school actually several times this morning. Yesterday the phone rang. Today it's going straight to voicemail. I sent a few emails to a couple different people.
made it
They're
viral.
bouncing back. Yeah, they're bouncing back because a lot of people have taken off until Monday. And I've been in constant contact with the family who's telling me that they're not going to hear anything from the school until Monday because they're giving Fairfax County Police time to investigate. I'm just trying to figure out this. We know this happened earlier this week, but why is it taking so long? She told me that they haven't even talked to the students. Amari chose not to go to school today, but she's been going to school the entire week.
She's scared.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so, I'm just trying to figure out why is this
Well, what
happening?
bothered me about just learning about doing a deep dive on the school itself And I know that evangelical Christian schools and people that work there will be upset about this, but intolerance is baked into their policy already. They have an application that you have to fill online that says that a marriage is only between a man and a woman, and they do not accept anybody of LGBTQ who identifies that way as a teacher or a student. Wow. So if you have that intolerance, you have to, even Amari's grandmother or aunt had to sign that. If you have that intolerance baked in already, I'm not saying there's a domino effect. I'm saying it's a breeding ground for very stringent ideas about how the world works. And I feel like, look, the second lady's there. She got a lot of pushback. The vice president said, it's offensive to us because these are our beliefs. I have a problem with some of those beliefs. I think they're bigoted.
Mm-hmm. Make a good point.
I'm sorry, you said this application's online?
You have to pay for it. You have to pay for it to actually get the application. But yeah, it's $25.
And let's not forget,
and the New York Times has already put it out there.
And they paid to go to this school. What? Almost
$12,000
a year.
$12,000 a year.
So you're paying to get bullied and assaulted.
And that's what she's And she's been there since she was in kindergarten. And this is not the first time that she's dealt with bullying at the school. She just tells me that for the school year, which for them started like mid-August, she's just been tormented by these guys. Her school lunch taken every day.
Is she one of just a few African-American kids at the school?
The family told me this school is predominantly white.
Okay.
So, and why did they pick that school?
She said the academic program is outstanding.
So here's the reality, though. I mean, kudos to her for sharing her story, right? Yeah. Like, what a brave little girl.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd want my kids to go on at that age.
I think we can safely say it's not just happening at that school, right? When we went through this morning, I sit here and you guys told me stories of what has happened to each of you on job interviews and how even your last name stories, and I'm like, I can't even believe that this still exists in this day and age. And I don't mean to be like, oh, we're some big hug here, like everything's wonderful, but I can't, it just hurts my heart to hear this. And you go beyond Amari in this school and you realize, like, as a society, we have some real work to do.
Definitely a lot of work to do. And I think that's kind of what we were saying, that a lot of that work has been thrown on the shoulders of those who are experiencing those types of discrimination. And I think that it's important for people to be educated, but it's also important to self-educate as well. And it, like you were saying, it does get a little tiring when you have to constantly explain for someone or to someone how to treat you. When that should be something that is just a human thing. You treat people the
with
way
respect.
you want to be treated, like the golden rule. But a lot of people don't operate that way.
I don't know if this has ever happened, but I had a really strange experience one time at an airport in Sacramento. I pulled my hair back in a ponytail. I had just washed it, so my hair was extra thick. You know how it is. It was extra thick. Put it back in a ponytail, and I went through, and I was stopped by a TSA agent. And I've never had this before, and I travel a lot, but she literally wanted to feel my ponytail right at the tie. And she wanted to feel my ponytail. I had no fake hair in my hair. And I asked her, why is she doing this? And she said it looked more dense than it was supposed to be, the density.
She was checking it for weapons or something?
And my
she's
ponytail.
not the only one.
Like I said earlier, in my braids, I've had them checked, and I've had what they call the lemonades, where the braids were going to the side. I can't hide nothing in those braids. I cannot hide anything in those braids. However, of course, when I go through the machine, it's like, okay, everything's fine, but I just got to check your hair. But it's like, for what?
It's happened to me as
For
well.
what?
Having to take down my braids and then let them feel.
Like, and we talked about, like,
it's so
it starts
invasive.
even at your name, because I flew as a Santiago because I used to be married to one, happily divorced, and then went back to my maiden name because I love
So you must
Khan.
have done something wrong.
That really is. So flew 1 week as Santiago, got my driver's license to switch back to my maiden name, which is Khan. And anyone else who has a last name Khan, Khan, it is the Smith of Asia. So it literally is a very common name. Was pulled over by TSA. Like, my body, I just feel violated. You know, they check everything, then they go through all your stuff, and that has happened just about every time
You
that I've flown.
identify as a Middle Eastern woman with your name.
But I'm not a Middle Eastern woman, even with my name.
Right.
My name is Afghani and Pakistani. It's tribal, so it's not even Middle Eastern. And Middle Eastern looks like this, and this. So let's stop like the boxes don't exist, right?
But they put you in that box.
But when you were a Santiago, you never ran into that.
Nope, not once.
Wow.
And I was a Santiago for 10 years.
That's crazy.
And my father, who's a military vet, is a Muhammad Khan and goes by Mo because that makes other people more comfortable and still gets stopped at TSA. But when the military ID comes out as a retired vet, somehow things are much easier after that. So,
kind of switching gears, but one thing that I've experienced is like having a hairstyle and then having to keep it because coming into work and you have a different hairstyle and all of a sudden people don't know who you are.
Yes, it's called a thing. It's called hair anxiety.
Yes.
Oh my
It's a
goodness
thing.
gracious.
I didn't know there was a name
So
for
I
it.
have
Hair anxiety?
Yes.
You can Google it. Google.
You have hair
Here's what I
anxiety.
do.
I have plans to take out my hair this weekend. I'm so nervous about what you all would think on Monday.
Exactly.
I'm so nervous.
Oh,
wow.
Yes.
We know you.
Are you kidding me?
What are you
I do
nervous
not
about? What are you
care.
nervous about?
Because you all know me as like this.
Yes,
But
yes,
when
yes,
I
yes.
come in,
Incorrect. I knew you as Twist.
You didn't know
Because when I interview you, I knew you as Twist.
and then this, and
That's-
it's just like I'm gonna come in natural on Monday. Like I have to brace myself.
Is it because you fear if people may say, like, not know who, like, oh, because I get mixed up with
Yes.
Lauren often, and I'm really not sure
Really?
why.
People call you
That was Lauren.
I
too.
really don't
Lauren is
understand
another
why.
editor on our team.
But
No.
They look nothing like each other.
Y'all need to just call me Lauren.
Not at all.
It's
Not
okay.
at all.
It's okay. But yes, I get Lauren often. Don't know why, because we look nothing alike. But is it that?
Yes, it's that, and also having to explain what I did.
Yes.
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 Okay.
This
I
hair
understand
isn't
because if I get
mine,
braids, it's
then
like, oh,
you'll
it's
see
my
your
Lauren.
hair.
Yeah.
So people say, why did you do that?
No,
Yes,
people
cut-
say,
listen.
well, first
cut your
people
hair?
are like, oh, wait, Jasmine? Yes. Or they say, oh, are you new? No, I've been here for 2 years. And they're like, oh, you must have had a different hairstyle.
But the hairstyle
And
really
it's like, but my
doesn't
face
is the same.
Right.
We're not Hannah Montana people. Okay.
Like you said, I explained, like, oh, so your hair grew. Now, come on now, y'all. Y'all know my hair didn't grow this
What, like one of those dolls, we press the button and then pull it out?
And also, there's also something to be said for like people not identifying you enough with your face and who you are,
Yes.
and identifying you with your hair.
Yes.
Like, that to
But
me
that's how it is
that's
for
as
black women.
that's as shallow
If-
as anything.
If you walked in tomorrow with hair, though, I would say something.
Right,
I
right,
would.
yeah.
I mean, you know,
Yeah,
like
no,
that.
you're
But
right.
we
I
would still
would.
know you're
but
Mike
I-
Wise and
but
not some other
I-
random
Yeah.
tall guy in the building.
You know, and I think
I won't lose weight because I don't want you guys to think that I'm.
That's why I always feel like whenever I do get protective styles, I have to get the same one over and over and over
No
and
ma'am,
over
no
again.
ham.
Because
Wow.
if I don't, then people aren't going to know who I am, or I will have to explain what was different. And when I take these down, it's like, okay, so are people going to realize that it's still me? I have to introduce myself all over again. And it's tiring. And like you said, it does give you a feeling of anxiety.
I just
really
got my hair
terrible
cut
to
and no one
feel.
ever asked me, who are you? They
that's-
never
that's
did
the
it. They,
But that's the
I
Did they
literally,
notice
I
you?
just got it
Problem.
cut
Did
this
they
week.
notice you that you got it cut?
yes.
My husband hasn't noticed.
That's usually what happens
That
with
is
some
a different-
women.
that is another
Guys don't
Facebook
notice for
Live.
at least weeks.
But we did. We were complimenting you on your hair. But I will say in this is like, you know, again, we go back to your story. I'm so glad you shared with us the reason that you
The
have
style.
chosen the crown and the style that you have, because and that makes me feel really proud. And I hope that it makes you feel proud. And I don't want us to lose that. Like, there are moments that we should, like, you know, I don't want you having hair anxiety about coming in with something else, but I really want you to know that I'm really proud of you. And I also don't want to be scared to say that.
And
right?
I love
So
that
wanna
you
walk the
shared
line
that
of-
story.
And I don't want you to have hair anxiety because let me tell you something, I don't. Okay?
You don't have anxiety, period.
Every week is something new.
that.
She has hair pride.
It's
Hair
literally
pride.
from big to pineapple to this. It's just like
And
whatever
that's
I
what's
want.
beautiful about black hair because it's so versatile.
Versatile, yes.
You can
Yeah.
do
Yes.
anything.
yes.
And that's why it's like when we were younger, it was just such a tragedy that we
Yeah.
thought
Yes.
Yes.
or were made to
We're taught.
believe that we could only have our hair a certain way.
yeah.
And now as we're older and even us more educated about our own hair and feeling more confident in our naturalness, I think that that's something that a lot of us are kind of experimenting with, and that's why we do have all of these different hairstyles. We're like, wait, I can wear my hair like this, like that, like, and I think that's something to be so proud of. And if that's what's cool about our hair. It literally
See, I
defies
have hair.
gravity.
I have hair envy because you can do all those styles. I really. I mean, I just.
Absolutely.
I think that's beautiful.
So,
I just
Kalita,
think
I
it's
will see you next Wednesday. We will be Bush
Yes, let's take
sisters.
this out.
Because the Bush is coming back. Yeah, the Bush is coming back.
Well, I just appreciate. I mean, it takes a little bit of courage to sit there and talk about all that stuff.
Yes.
So from
Yes.
my standpoint, and I didn't have a lot of hair to talk about, it was it was good to hear that, and I'm still bothered by the 12-year-old girl.
So
And
bothered.
I think we all
So
are.
I don't even
Yeah.
know her,
Yeah.
but it's like, man, it just eats me.
Well, let's just say that she's beautiful.
Yeah.
You are brave because you put your story out there, and like we're having this conversation, adults, about a 12-year-old girl who was brave enough to talk about what she went through.
Yeah.
So that makes you, a leader in your own right. Just to think about that,
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I will say, I know that it's probably exhausting to, even as you were saying, to educate people, but I'm really grateful that you let us ask the questions today, because there are things that we really learned, and I hope that everybody at home learned from this. And while it's got to be frustrating to have to go through it, like, these are really important moments, and if that's what comes out of this is that people learn from it, then Amari, well done. Well done, little lady. Well done.
And I'll say not only her, but just the natural hair movement in itself, and working at a place like Channel 9, as you all know, you watch us. It's very innovative here. I love how our bosses encourage us to be our authentic selves. So that has given me more courage to step outside my box when I choose to wear my hair natural on air, which I was saying I haven't done so just yet because I'm learning it.
Okay.
And also there's something called shrinkage. Like
Shrinkage?
for me, shrinkage.
Yes.
It means when your hair, when it's in its curly state,
Yeah.
it's a lot shorter than what it would
Yep.
be when it's stretched out.
Yeah, but
See
So-
me now, see me with straight hair later.
so when I came out of the hairdresser, my hair was down to here.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah,
because
so
it was
that's
humid
shrinkage.
this morning.
And I'm not knocking anybody who likes to rock their shrinkage. I think it's beautiful on just, every kind of person. But for me, I need to learn how to work it a little bit better. And I also have I have a vision of how I'd like it to look when I debut my curls on air. So
Definitely a transition. I think when I first transitioned, it took me like a good maybe a year or two to find the right and I'm still finding the
products,
right
it makes a
products. Getting the twist out down, knowing how much to pluck, how much not to pluck, knowing what works for me, what doesn't work for me, because I'm not a wash and go person either because of my curl pattern, and I can't do the shrinkage and so on and so forth. So it'll take time. You don't just wake up and go from straight to natural and here's my curls.
right.
You literally have to do a lot to maintain it and get it to where you want it to be.
This is the first place I've worked at that I felt comfortable wearing my hair the way I wanted to wear it.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Good.
That's awesome.
that's how it should be.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And I wish that for every young
Yes.
black girl that's entering into the workforce and that's kind of
That's going to
wary-
school.
Yeah.
Anybody.
Yeah.
That's wary about, okay, how can I come to work? What's professional? What's not? Just, be you. And
Professional
that
is doing a good job.
Yes.
That's what matters. It's your work ethic and what,
and
that's
the
what
respect
matters.
of others, right?
Absolutely.
That's what it comes down to.
that's right.
Not how you look.
Makia, take us out.
Yeah.
All right, well, we hope you learned something from this conversation, and I'm really happy everyone just took this chance to open up in front of all of you. And yeah, if you have any questions or comments, leave them below. We'd love to hear from you, and thanks for popping in midday. Have a good one.